really heavy.
Wow. Oh, such
Yeah.
a nice shape as well.
Yeah, it's a pot that I made.
When did you make it? How did you make the pot? How was it?
Yeah, it was fun to make such a big thing. I mean, yeah, like working with clay for me is not something new. I always try to, not try, but it always ends up being part of my work unexpectedly. Uh, but yeah, it was the first time making something as big as this, so for sure it was something for me that I enjoyed.
What do you mean by unexpectedly when clay comes into your work?
Yeah, I think it's something that yeah, it's something that is really bound with my working process. And for example, if I want to get unlocked, one way to do that is to start playing with clay, and then my mind will start running, and I would, I would be kind of more free to explore possibilities and be more creative. Yeah, it ends up being unexpectedly into my work because it doesn't start as a piece of work itself, and it just yeah, by starting to work with it and then even letting it aside for some time, it always ends up being a part of my work.
Very interesting. It's also very, it feels like you use clay in a way that helps not only express yourself, but also like the way you work. You really like to look back on time and be able to work on it as much as possible whenever you can as well. Clay gives you a sense of freedom.
Yes, clay does that for sure, and it's also very forgiving. Um, yeah, it's a very forgiving medium, and it's always allows you to change stuff, add more stuff to it, and it's very liquid in a way that you make it what you want. It's very moldable. So I'm a very visual person, and having an object that I can mold into the shape that I want and I find fitting what is what clay allows. Is what in the end, in a few words also, it's why clay it's such a fitting medium for me.
Nice. And why did you choose the shape? What came to mind and you decided to make it such a big thing, but also the shape itself? Such a, it's very big, as you said yourself. So it's very interesting to see the shape you use with it as well.
Yeah, well, I wanted this shape. I wanted the pot to be big itself, and I wanted it to be sort of curvy in some way, because this is the pots I also like, the ones that they're a bit slim on the bottom and like more round when reaching almost to the neck, and then the neck really slim up high, and two handles, because it's such a big pot you would not be able to carry it with only one. And yeah, but thinking more into it and realizing what this pot could entail and what the stories and the symbols that we would hold, I chose this because it's big enough to hold enough, and it's also the handles, and one handle is kind of looking to the past. The middle you have the neck that is the present where you are, and that is why there's stories, and there's the same color where the symbols are, because we are in the present, we're talking about the present, and then you have the other handle that looks to the future. So you kind of have this timeline when looking horizontally onto the pot
Very interesting.
on the top part.
Oh, very interesting perspective. I especially like the present. It gives so much strength to the pot on its own itself. This elongated neck as well, especially the over exaggeration of it, seems such an interesting perspective. I also see that you used very earthy colors, but there's also yes, explain more in a way. Why so?
Yeah, I wanted the pot to have earthy tones, but I also wanted a contrast on it I wanted a big contrast between modern and old. And I found the other colors, the gray and the red clay and the white clay, to symbolize the old, the ancient, and I wanted the pink, and the blue. It's sort of modern. It's more current. It's more bright. It's more out of this world. It's more. Modern. It's more new in a way.
And its functionality too.
Yes.
No, and I see in the beginning on the top here where the pot starts, you have these symbols. Can you explain more about the symbols?
Yeah, the symbols are simple suns that I wanted to depict, and I wanted to have two rows, let's say one in the top and one in the bottom of the pot, that keep the other symbols that are depicted in between these two rows bounded to the pot, so they don't kind of flow away into the space. I wanted them to be there and stay there. And I found the sun. I wanted this pot in the end to be also a vessel of what reminds me of home, or what reminds me of Cyprus. And whenever I think of Cyprus, I always think the sun. So it's something that is done always in the present. It's whenever I think of Cyprus, I would think of sun, no matter what. And on the bottom line, I always think that, okay, there's sun, then there's beach, and then there's the sea, and then there's the sand. So I also try to do that on the bottom, kind of to have these two. The sun, the sky element, the water element, and then the earthy element.
I really like it. I really feel that has a strong point on its own, especially you added no color to these statements as well, giving them more of a strength on their own as well. I also see this depiction of maybe, can I call these pots? What would it be?
These little pots, actually, they're called cezves. It's a Turkish word that is used also in Cyprus. You also have other words to it, briki, but that is used also in Greece. And I decided to avoid this word specifically because I wanted a word that is only mentioned in Cyprus, and of course Turkey. And these pots are from copper. That's why their undertone is also red. And it's where you put the cezve, it's where you put your coffee and you take it to the fire or to the sun to get ready and to eat it. And I have so many because of the repetition that this action holds. and how many coffees you would make at some point, like when you with your family or with your friends, or when you are in a big celebration or someone's party. It's this social gathering in a way.
It kind of identifies as, you can see like that there is action within the depiction as well,
Yeah.
especially because of the movement of the coffee, for say.
Yeah, I really wanted to have the coffee in all the stages. So you have the coffee that is overflown from the pot, then you have the coffee that is running from the pot as well, and then you also have a more stable pot in the back. So yeah, this is kind of my perception of the stages while preparing coffee. And yeah, I wanted to I find this ritual always in my mind. It's yeah, a ritual, I would like to call it like that. It's something that is, I see, for example, if we're gonna have if we're gonna go to my grandma's place or to my aunt's place, or if people come to my place, it's always a female person that gets involved with the coffee. So I wanted to add like a feminine touch to it as well. Yeah, you know, it's a bit old-fashioned maybe to have pink as a girly color, as a feminine color, but at least for me, it's what speaks to me as well. It's maybe traditional, yes, but I think nowadays it's also not uncommon to see traditional stuff breaking gender roles. So I think it was really an intuition thing for me to do it.
It's very nice that you did add that aspect of the pink around the objects, especially as you say, like most women are the ones who make the coffee, especially for the men, for example. Coming from a similar background as you, I do also see that connotation in say daily life work as well, but I think it's very stereotypical to see mostly women working in the kitchen and making the coffee.
Yeah. My dad, for example, does make coffee for us, and he's always very willing to do so and very happy when he does it. So it's very nice to see it also as a change. But yeah, I would say that, for example, if a big group comes to, like, for example, his brothers or his extended family, he wouldn't do that. He would only do it in his very personal, intimate circle.
So you also would say maybe when it comes to subjects like this, usually, even though he feels comfortable in a space just between you guys, he will not participate in the bigger and larger gatherings of making of the coffee. But I also do, as I said, coming from a personal background, I think going into the kitchen to make the coffee as a woman is also a way to get to talk to your family, get to talk to your to the people you are with in the kitchen, because it gives you a moment away from external family, just to have a moment between women as well. How do you feel about that?
I think certainly it's a place that women in the end do gather, if it's to clean the plates, if it's to talk about stuff, if it's to prepare stuff, if it's to help each other, even if it's just to keep each other company. It's always something that is done. Like my brother's godmother. Whenever she comes, she never wants to sit on the couch. She always wants to follow my mom around when she's doing like the stuff in the kitchen. So it's really nice to see that maybe this is a way of bonding as well. It is a way of bonding in the end, because that's when you talk about stuff that not everyone is interested in everything. So it's nice to have this private moment within a bigger group where you can talk about the interesting stuff, the stuff that keeps you interested, maybe the more personal stuff as well that you don't want everyone to know. Yeah,
very true. I also see that you have some etchings around the handles on the bottom. Can you maybe explain a bit more about the etchings?
Yeah. Well, like I said before, while making the pot, I thought about what the handles and the neck could be, and I thought of time and the past, the present, and the future. And I thought maybe this is too much explaining for someone to understand. And I wanted a more universal meaning, even though small, to be able to depict this running of time. That's why I had the etchings around the handles to be little hourglasses, very simple hourglasses, but still holding the original shape of one. And I wanted to depict this time, the running time. Yeah, and talking more about time, also thinking about the cracks that are on it, even though they happened very accidentally. I thought they added even more to the pot that I could ever add. In the end, I'm also talking about time here again, because time can have can play a funny game to you, even without realizing. And when I saw these cracks, I thought, they surely do symbolize time, but also this stress, the stress that maybe we experience in the modern world. And by that I mean, the rush, trying to fit whatever you can in your daily schedule, rushing to go from one place to another. So I thought this crash showed this clashing, this unnatural thing to do, to try to fit as many things as possible in just maybe some hours. It's also fine to just exist, to just be, and to take time to enjoy stuff and be present. Yeah.
And when it comes to, I see you have a depiction of a church here. Maybe, nice.
Yeah. It's a bit hard to move.
Yeah, it's a big one, so I understand.
Yeah.
Could you explain more about the church? I see it also somewhat symbolizes a mosque as well.
Yeah. Well, this church is actually a Christian Greek Orthodox church. It's actually from my village in Cyprus. In the village square, you have this church. It's actually very ancient. It's from Byzantine times. And I found it, first of all, it's a very nostalgic place for me, because of it was the favorite church of my grandfather to go to. So of course a very nostalgic place for me, but now that I'm older and looking back into it, I find it very beautiful and surprising thing to do, to see a church accommodating the styles of both of both a church and a mosque. And I think I found it especially beautiful because of the certain situation of the two communities in Cyprus being apart for so long, to having such a strong symbol to accommodate both of these styles.
Mm.
And by the two communities, I mean the Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots.
Mm. And it is quite a big current event too when it comes to.
It's always a current thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a current thing. Yeah, you kind of coexist with it. You cannot do a lot to change it as individuals. You can do to change it. You can do a lot to change it if we all want to.
Mm.
And yeah.
There is also another object on the bottom here. I see there is a object that has lace on the bottom, and then there is a so-called
Pot.
pot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the lefkaritiko is the lace, as you mentioned. I wanted to add something similar to what we mentioned before about women bonding, and what could that be.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it that it's the lefkaritiko, it's something that you give with you have it in your dowry. It's very connected to your dowry, and it the craft, the technique, the art is taught from mother to a daughter, and it goes through generation to another generation. So I thought it was a very easy translation of the coffee ceremony you find also in Ethiopia, because it's also about bonding with other women while learning a new thing, coming of age sort of thing. And it's that's why I put it there. That's why I also put the blessing pot sort of way, the kapnistiri, because there's also a blessing part in the coffee ceremony you have in Ethiopia. There's also a blessing part, and it's also very common to see in Cyprus women blessing.
So that is also why you have the depiction of the woman. Then I would maybe put
On the
together as one on the other side.
Yes. I wanted it to put it on the other side, but I also wanted it to be on exactly opposite sides, not necessarily because they're two opposite things.
Mm-hmm.
In contrast, there are two of the same things together. They come the same, it's the same thing in the end, but that's why I wanted it to be so far apart, because it's so similar that it shouldn't. Yeah, it's so similar that putting it together maybe would lose the meaning.
Remove the connotation it already has, per
Yes.
se.
Yes.
And I also noticed you have put the woman in the pink circle. Well, in the pink circle, as you mentioned before. Does that also maybe, for say, symbolize a similar meaning, as well as the colors also you have used to?
Well, for me, I wanted to put the circle, sort of say, because I think all important stuff, I have it in a circle, all important crucial things to my pot, I have it in a circle and in this oval shape. So I thought that this woman should also be in a circle. This woman for me is not any other woman. On the other hand, is very important woman Her name is Adete, and is the goddess of the coffee ceremony in Ethiopia, and in many times they call the coffee ceremony itself Adete. So for me, it's the coffee ceremony. It's the depiction of the coffee ceremony. The girl is the coffee ceremony of Ethiopia is Adete. And I wanted to, in the end, not, but in a few words, the coffee ceremony in Ethiopia is about fertility and womanhood and coming of age, and is like I said, mentioned, goes from generation to generation. It's a place where women bond, and it's among like serving multiple functions. This ceremony at the day brings women together to celebrate, commemorate, display, and to ask for blessings, to kind of bring, serves to bring people together to discuss their daily lives, their families, to gossip, even to gossip. But nonetheless, it's still a social gathering. And
So
I added, sorry, you
no,
go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, of course.
I wanted to add the blue, sort of to play with the traditional rose, once again in a very simplistic way. That's why you have the pink and the blue. It's very simplistic. And the blue, well, I'm trying to find also the right word so I won't be lost in translation. Well, like I said, this ceremony, it's a social gathering, especially for women. It's such an important thing, to be able to do it, to perform it yourself, and to know the right steps and what to do, and to bond with other women. Nonetheless, a sociologist, he examined the effects of the coffee ceremony as a way of preserving cultural heritage and also overcoming forms of social disadvantages, but also generational trauma. And this research was done in men in the UK that migrated from Ethiopia, and they will participate in a coffee ceremony, and that made them feel better, that made them feel more engaged in society. I think it's something that, it's a social gathering. The end is not only about women or only about men. Coffee, it's such an important thing and so translucent that it speaks for everyone.
So you would say Adete is more not only a symbol of a woman, but a symbol of gathering, togetherness, being as one group in the end of the day too.
I would say that the coffee ceremony, not specifically Adete, because she could also mean the goddess herself. I would say the coffee ceremony should be a place for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I also see that you have this depiction of a board game. I know it as a tabli, of course.
Yeah.
Maybe you could explain a bit more.
Yeah. The board game tabli, it's also what you find as a backgammon. The universal version of it. It's something that we play while drinking coffee, and I wanted it to have it so close with the depiction of the woman and these gender roles, because of the of Tavli as well because of the backgammon. I remember when I asked my grandmother if she wanted to play Tavli with me last summer, she said, "I don't want to. It's not a woman thing to do, it's a man's thing to do. I don't even know how to play Tavli." That's what she said. And she even got angry at me even for knowing a little bit of how to play Tavli, because it's in her mind, in the end, it's men and women have their roles, and Tavli and playing cards is something you do in a coffee place, where coffee place is such a man thing to do, to go to the coffee place and sit and drink coffee and play Tavli or cards. So women shouldn't go there. And they still don't go there in some certain coffee places. But even though I see little by little change in our daily lives about this thing.
So you see it as a form of communication as well then, as if it is also like the coffee, per se.
It's something that goes with coffee, first of all.
Okay.
It's something that you cannot have coffee without Tavli. But also what I meant to say before is that I think Tavli, having women to play it nowadays, is also breaking stereotypes, is also breaking gender roles.
Yeah, very impactful in its own way then.
Yeah.
Many, of course you talk about gender, and it's that now this breaking free from the stereotypes, even though they still exist, is not forced amongst anyone anymore, but it's more of a willing thing to do.
Yes.
One thing that really caught my eye was the little, no worries, the little coffee cups.
Yeah. I think the coffee cups, I wanted to put them there because, first of all, coffee. But also it's where you put coffee, of course.
Yeah.
And I have one cup that is full and one cup that is sort of empty. And in the empty cup I wanted to show the remains of coffee that you have in it. And like in Cyprus, it's very common when you're done with your coffee, you flip it, you see your future, your destiny in sort of way, as if it's already written for you in a cup of coffee. And I found this to be very interesting, of how women would sit around and look at each other's cups and kind of learn how to do this. And it's also like coming back to the coffee ceremony of Atete of Ethiopia. It's soothsayers, actually, which also means people that foresee future, that can read the future, read the remaining coffee grounds after everyone has finished drinking. So they flip the coffee pot, the coffee cup, and they sort of read it the same way that women in Cyprus would do. So I found it a very interesting connection between these two cultures.
Oh.
And the culture of coffee drinking as well.
Yeah, of course.
And I wanted, I wanted to have the term of the sentence, coffee regulates time. Because I think when we drink coffee, that's when we really are present. We're not rushing to go somewhere or to go to places. We just enjoy coffee with someone we know and we sit somewhere. We learn how to regulate it. We know if we want to leave, if we see that our cup is going fast, or if it's going slow, or okay, I'm gonna go for a coffee. If it's gonna be with an old friend, I'm gonna get a bigger drink, or if it's with someone new that I don't really know, maybe I will get a small drink. So we learn how to, when drinking coffee, that's when we really start to regulate time, and that's when we really start to be aware of time at the same time.
So coffee is a type of maybe unknown or
Clock.
a clock, but what I mean, like, it's an unknown but known secret between people, that
Yeah.
coffee is a way you regulate your relationship with people, your
Yeah.
time spent with them as
Yeah.
well. Very interesting.
It's also a way to regulate the bonds you have.
The thing that caught my eye the most was definitely this this circle you have used many times again, but also this decoration, and there is like a saying inside it.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to use something earthy for the decoration, and I wanted to use something plenty of times. So you see the depiction of vine leaves, of grape leaves, that they are used, and they sort of go everywhere, and they are enough, sort of to say that this thing that I'm holding, sort of a way, this thing that I'm saying, the circle meaning, is for everyone. It's not only for one part, for one group, or for everyone. And the sentence inside the poem, the little text, it says, "In empty time we find peace. In empty time we are present. In empty time we are we." And yeah, it's something that I wrote, and I think empty time translates to these moments in your schedule where you finally break free from all the responsibilities and maybe the things you have to do, and you just kind of sort of exist, and you enjoy existing, and you enjoy being you, and being in peace, and being present, being aware of the things around you. And it's the moment where we truly are together. Even when you're alone in a person, is the moment where, in a room, sorry, even when you're alone in a room, when you start to have this moment of peace, this moment when you're feeling
Clarity in a way.
clarity, yeah, that's when you start thinking more collectively and more as a group with other people.
And you find that the best way to connect with people as well, for you too. It's not only time for yourself, but it gives you time to think about stuff, time to really reflect on.
To reflect, to think, to reconsider, to understand. There's so many things you can do during these empty times, but it's most importantly to just be without stress, without anything on your mind, and without any responsibilities, and just
Yourself and a cup of coffee.
yes, exactly.
It's very nice saying. It feels very full, but it uses the word empty. It's a very loaded statement you're saying, but by the end of it, it feels like it is something you can always relate to no matter what. You always have an empty time in your schedule, and that time is for you.
Yeah.
And you choose to take it the way you want to take it. No one else can take that from you.
Yeah. So that is all.
Yeah. It seems like